To begin with, Damle sir mentioned about the nature of academics. We should stop considering them just as tools anymore, because the more we look at them, they are the source of bringing an institutional thought process into the market. They have shut being a certain type of thing, because recently when we both were at Kolhapur, they had a defined aesthetics, and even speaking to them, besides that or beyond that, would not be subscribed to at all. So there was a clear statemental positioning of them. So whether we historically we associate with that or not, and typically that also with the larger idea of what so-called we have been looking at the three major art schools. So in a very purist manner that okay, this happens, intellectual thing only happens here and this does not happen here at all. But I think we are largely missing on one major aspect, that image consumption is no more limited to the artist anymore. The larger semiotics, we tend to speak only about artists making images and not looking at the integral nature of image making as a part and process of, I'm not becoming traditionalist here, going back that, oh, we did images, Rangoli and many other things. No. But today we are consuming images, making images in so many different ways, and through the devices also, what we call it as electronic devices. So then why do we discount that larger semiotics of image making and consumption and only subscribe to only artist statements in the sense of what art is about, or kind of the idea of social realities. So perhaps we tend to ignore that semiotics in a major sense. Just to add one more line to this, the anxiety today, which I notice and witness in many artists and people younger to me, 5-6 years younger to me, that now they have a checklist. I need to be a multidisciplinary artist. I need to have good skill. I need to be able to produce videos. I need to perform. I need to make statement on certain key social realities, whether it relates to my life or not, whether I have an experience of it or not. Yeah. Now then, what Sanjeev is mentioning about, or otherwise. So in this case, if this checklist is performed, then I am eligible to becoming an artist. So perhaps the larger art world is kind of offering, if you don't fall into this category, then you are no more valid as a practitioner. Perhaps we sitting, at times we change our positions here. So when we look at that, we subscribe to, oh, this artist did that. The person is getting a signal that, hey, if I do not fill this checklist, then I won't be ever validated by Abhijit or any one of you. So how do we look at this as this presence or the very existence of an artist?
This artist long back. He was from Baroda, and it was about 10 years ago. He is nowhere on the scene now, but be sure these checklist artists would be slowly out of the scene, and they will be gone. So, I mean, if one or two remain, it is the fault of the system, not maybe. And another small thing about the artist statement, it is not who depends on it, or whether we depend on it or not, but it is about मला काही सांगायचंय की नाही, whether I have to, whether I have something to say about my work or not. No, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
so that is what artist statement should be about.
See, this, if some artists say, why I need to speak about my work, the work speaks for itself वगैरह ये जो फंडा मारते हैं, ठीक है, but it's not that easy. Nikhil's question, see, in fact, I come from a different point of view, or I subscribe to at a position where there is no pressure of such kind that you have to do this, then somebody approves it. I say, I don't want this. I will do. I am aware about the historicity. I am aware about all the jargon, theory and everything. And here I am, and this is what I want to say. I am clear about that, without all this pressure. So that process is important for me. It is not that what is required. Then it is meaningful. That is what I feel. It's not. Then about abstraction also. Today, see, abstraction ka sources from that modern period and today abstraction is totally different. It's not the same source. That is the main difference that most of them don't understand. It's not the same abstraction that is happening today. Like, I can mention one or two names. Like Zarina Hashmi, we are familiar with her practice. Then we have Julie Meheri's large canvases, right? Looks abstract, but then it's architectural drawings on layers and layers, right? Sue Williams have figures on top of other. So there are many examples. Abstraction can be layers of figures that ultimately form, unrecognizable kind of visual imagery. So, but the sources are different. Like Roger Fry, right? And then this spectacle. What is that?
Du Bois.
Du Bois.
John Du Bois.
It is not you looking at work now. All it is the screen that you are dealing. Then the CCTV cameras. It is not just the artwork that an audience is looking at. It is also now the work of art looking at the viewer. We are living at that kind of reality. So things have changed. Okay. Another question from Shan.
I agree with
yeah, everybody got
what's saying that see what happens that because mobile camera is having mobile phone is having a camera, everybody has started clicking the picture. In the same way, there are so many tools and so many avenues where image making is possible. So larger number of image making practices are there. And I feel if something relevant happens, it is always noticed. And for example, if unfortunately, contemporary art practice always focuses on social issues, political perspectives, etc., etc. We never consider a good type design as a part of a visual culture, for example. Okay. And we don't even know what is happening in that area at all. They are also doing something very, very relevant and contributing to it. And so even this is what we need to realize, that we are obsessed with only few things. And so your observation is correct.
Like Sarang Kulkarni's reference of egg type.
Yeah.
We have Indic types now. Google has so many Indic fonts because of type designers, and that has enhanced the accessibility. We tend to ignore that aspect of art and design in many ways.
Yes. So that is what. But again, I feel because we have the benefit of the tradition that painted object or object is created in a different way. So that is still relevant in our practice. So we still feel that like the similar small debate I had when people were trying to see that how relevant Laxman is, R.K. Laxman. Okay. So it is not that he has not contributed, but will we consider, suppose I forget the other name who is doing now, so they are equally relevant, they are equally commenting on the contemporary realities. They also have a visual vocabulary of their own, etc. But we tend to miss them many times. This is the satire which is done by a painter or a performer, we consider more relevant than what Kunni did, suppose, for Times of India, Indian Express, or things like that. But I think.
Mentioned about Dalit art, I'd like to understand a little better about it, because I think it's not really very clear. Is it art made by Dalits, or is it talking about the philosophy of, so that becomes very complicated. I mean, it needs to be, I think it's still evolving and it needs to come through more clearly, because it also tends to get interpreted. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But
The question is right. See, have you heard of this name, Rahul Sankrityayan?
no.
Bhadanta Anand Kausalyan? The book Volga to Ganga. See, what happens? He was a Brahmin, okay? Writes ancient histories, comes to pre-colonial era, he writes about that, and then the realities of those times, the age of oppression, and then our Indian constitution and independence. Okay. Now, there are many examples talking about the idea of Ambedkarism, but there are lived experiences that a person coming from that oppressed background speaking about their lives. That is one part. And there is another one who is quoting about Dalit lives. Both are the same. No, both are similar in ways. Not same, similar in ways. The facts may differ, right? Like when we talk about dishes, okay? If I mention you some dishes, you have not tasted it, but this has been a long tradition, you know? So this kind of examples, Dalit art is like that, or Ambedkarite art. That's why it is not just like you can say, oh, why use of this word Dalit, then why it has to be art. See, there is the idea of the sublime, which was carried for a very long time. Then there is not new aesthetics that is emerging, that is non-sublime. I'll give you one or two examples. It started from the period that we live, from Savi Savarkar. Okay. Till that, on the other hand, the kind of art was being made, and then Savi Savarkar, he paints. And what today young artists with the Ambedkarite thought paint, what do they actually are involved in, what kind of theories they read or experiences they talk about. It is different from the so-called sublime, the ideas of the sublime. It is different. So historically, from now 20 years, okay, when you look back and you will see it. See, it takes 20 years minimum for a new thought to establish, and this will happen. Okay. Same thing happened with the ideas of postmodernism. Same thing happened with when Sousa painted those nudes. There will be controversies, then it gets acceptance, with time, right? That aesthetics gets established. Because, see, there was a time when Raja Ravi Verma, I'm talking about that period, then the critics wrote, because of the machine printing and all that technology, and poor printing came, and then the British critics, they wrote about how that soul is lost. You know, that flatness of Indian miniatures which get lost in the way the Westerners painted, right? So history is like that. Same with what we are doing. It may look new. It is new, but in a sense that when we are saying it is new, this is true that it is about the people, their lives, right? In that sense, yes.
I also think, I mean, you know, when we come to contemporary, like Abhijit said, you know, later on they'll say this is contemporary, but there are multiple things happening now, you know, because there are so many things happening in the world, not just war. There's also about the ecology, it's about sustainability. So, you know, the artists are also not necessarily now, I think, I mean, tell me, they don't necessarily look at the West or look outside for the inspiration. Like the local and your own life also. I mean, I think the young people, young artists at least, are now taking, how do you say, what's the word? I'm not able to find the word, but they're not necessarily looking to the West. They're looking at their own lives and their own milieu to talk about what is happening. So yeah, in broadly, yes. Broadly, if you see all over the world, you know, it's about ecology, there's trans, there's gender and trans, you know, art, there is, of course, the black art movement, Dalit, and so on. So all these are multiple, I think they're parallelly moving forward, if, at least that's how I see it. I don't think that there's just one thing that's happening, there are multiple parallel movements. That was that, and yeah, you want to say something? And then finally, you started with Guernica, and you said we remember Guernica, but Picasso arrived at Guernica at the end of his journey. You know, if you look at the beginning of his journey, it was very personal. So I guess it takes a long time to come to a Guernica, probably.
See, the personal is also political.
Can be.
Yeah, I mean, on a, commonly it is not understood that way, but if you go deeper into that idea of the self,
It can be.
then yes, the self becomes political. See, nothing is in isolation actually.
About Picasso itself, these periods do paint.
Yeah, it changed. I mean, one period was where he was mourning his friend, and at least that's what we read about.
But coming to the environmental, ecological art question and
nature, as we are losing nature, there's so much.
The younger people who are not necessarily looking at the West. I will try to address both. One is that many ecological or those who have gender-centered issues and things, they many of them tend to be checklist artists, as to borrow Nikhil's term, and there is a curatorial checklist. I mean, to add to this, there is a curatorial checklist now, which is again asking you, asking people to, asking artists to be gender inclusive and gender sensitive and ecologically aware and everything. So as if there is this oracle of the curator, which is, I mean, that is my inhibition, which I mean, I'm happy if I'm proved wrong and I'm actually wrong. That's one thing. But these things also happens because of the distance.
Possibly, and I'm not saying.
And they, like Paramjit Singh, or like for 40 years he has painted grasslands.
Yes.
What would you call him? Was he not about ecology? I mean, how would you place him? I mean, you described him as a failed landscape artist or something. I mean, but the way he looked at each piece of land, he immortalized it. He made portraits of land masses, right? Paramjit Singh, and that kind of accruing value to it. This act he has made throughout his working career. That is it not about his love for ecology? I mean, these are art historical questions that are in a way hypothetical propositions, but many of them do come true.
Yeah. So there
Because the fact never changes that he has
of course,
actually looked at
yes.
the land.
So therefore, I feel that when we suppose, for example, talk about ecology, there is one way to talk about ecology, which is polluters talking about ecology. And there is another way of talking about ecology where Vandana Shiva is talking about ecology. So we need to see a lot of details that what exactly is happening, because then only Abhijit's questions about Paramjit Singh can be answered. Yeah. Otherwise, it will be a very broad-based answers, about assuming things. That's why I feel that many of the honest gaps needs to be filled and answered and spoken about. Like we were talking about, he said about poem. So just it is going somewhere else, but still I remembered in that reference, so I am referring to it. One journalist went to Ranchi and called Vinod Kumar Shukla that how do I come to your house? And he said, Safed Champa ka Ped, that is the address, and no other address. And when he found out, he realized why that is the address. Okay. Now, if you look at Vinod Kumar Shukla, what he has done extremely, sincere, relevant work responding to the realities. And it doesn't mean that he does not have a sense of a contemporary. He commented on a political situation where he said earlier, "पहले लोग रहते थे, अभी झुंड आते." So I feel we want answers to so many questions because we feel pressured, rather than having a confidence that I am doing something meaningful, at least to myself, with the others. So this is how I respond to the questions like this, because we see that many things are contemporary and happening parallelly, but they are not just happening parallelly. They are also trying to be leaders or trying to gain power over the other. These are the competitive realities are there. So I feel there are so many subtle questions which we don't even have arrived at. That's why we are in an agitated kind of a mode, and on one level.
Maybe I talk.
Abhijit's example of
Extreme example.
this grasslands. Parallelly, see that the process of creating that, and in engaged in that activity in a linear way for so many years. See, and the idea of contemporaneity. Okay, let's take an example of the Drupad form. Okay, I like Drupad form, but then even in music and literature, right? When we talk about contemporary, okay, it's not the same. First thing to note is it's not the same. It has relevance in those times which we even enjoy today. There are now, the reality is now new forms are happening that needs to be acknowledged. And initially Lata Mangeshkar ji was also, she also did not accept, her songs being, उसको क्या बोला था उन्होंने?
Cover version.
हाँ, fusion. Later she accepted. So exactly that's what happens. Like how Sufi poets, and those guys जो ऐसा गोल घूमता है, हाँ. So that kind of activity. Then J. Krishnamurti, then he talks about, why you want to call yoga this, that, it is exercise. See, this thing will go on. But what we need to understand is one thing, key things do change with time, their definitions and the need also changes. It's not like just about how we consume things and that. It keeps, we won't say evolving in the sense that it is growing, but definitely Jerry Saltz abhi bolta hai we have to keep quiet for some time now. He said, I am not writing on art for some time now. Everything is at, like we are in a, we have come to a point where we need to just let artists create what they want, just explore. See, I'm not saying that I like everything that he writes, but there are things that he, very important. So today contemporary art or art of today, it has come to a point where we are looking at things, we are not forming any opinions, but one thing is sure that everybody wants is whether it is making sense or not. That is the prerequisite. Otherwise we are not going to. Otherwise, how do we respond if something is not making sense? Then we just off. So that factor is very important. And when it comes from that human lived experience, then it automatically becomes something worth, responding to.
What is contemporary?
See, contemporary. That's why today's topic I did not use the word contemporary. I said art of today.
Okay.
I knew this question
I
would
heard
come.
lot of what I heard till now, not about the title of the discussion, but till now we are all discussing what is contemporary, right?
Yeah, in that sense.
In that sense.
Because I feel most of the people are agitated by not having the clarity about it, and it hovers around everybody, and we keep carrying that, so it becomes like something eventually everybody starts talking about. So actually aim was not to talk about that, but like nobody says that that these are the actual issues of contemporary figure representation. Nobody says that.
Yes.
Questions always are about what exactly is contemporary, what exactly is this, what exactly is that. So, like for example, in India or in our, especially suppose Maharashtra, people do not say that if you do not have a leftist leaning, how to paint human figure. They don't know about it, or they do not talk about issues like that, or they don't even know that it can be a different way to look at something as well. So these are the things which I say they are not talked about. Okay. So but actually our intention is definitely not that. Otherwise,
It's not
after
that,
going,
but,
people will have a new checklist based on what we say. We don't
No,
know.
I didn't mean that your intention was that, but I got a question that no, in a lighter note I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One more
just-
thing I want to add that, sorry.
No, please.
One more thing I want to add that India has different realities. That's why there are different artists are focusing different realities. A Dalit artist reality is different, and a Brahmanic ideological artist is his reality is different. What his life is showing, that is his reality.
No, we are not understanding.
No. India has. What I mean
Yeah.
is, you got it right.
Well, that's why I mentioned, that's perfectly why I mentioned Barwe and you talking about Barwe. That in the beginning I mentioned his observations about Barwe's art. It was, Barwe was a middle class, to name his caste, he was a Brahmin. He was a very, but as an artist, he had no caste, no social class, nothing. He was an artist. And I mean, everybody, like everyone.
Yes.
And but he still researched his lived reality. He brought it into into his art, and in a very emphatic way that we now call the Barwe style, kind of.
Or
The Barwe idiom.
yeah. So like for example, when we talk about Ambedkarite art, one observation is that it is more about responding to the urban scenario.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it's observation. I'm not saying it is a statement.
But it is really still evolving.
So whatever is happening till now.
I mean, maybe you may not have.
I may not have encountered. I may say that. So I am saying, therefore, because one is saying that I am painting my perspective, it doesn't mean that other has a perspective and they are doing that. We are implying that they have a perspective. Means, of course, it doesn't apply to Barwe, but so therefore it is complex.
Yes, it is
And
definitely a complex.
one has to keep checking and asking questions and finding out, does it make sense or not, as you said that.
Just one point about the nature of media consumption what we have today. As an observation, everyone on Instagram is an authority. The same is happening with a major chunk of people around us, that everything they do, they tend to assume a sense of authority, be it speaking about a social justice matter, and a reference of a social political reference, any section you might look at, and the artists are choosing to be an authoritative, quoting a lot of theory. Then I agree with Sanjeev about we have past sublime, but we can never be past experiential nature of art in that manner. So then that authority just keeps on creating a statemental about, okay, this is what happened, this is what happened. But then how do you experience what is happening? Yeah, stating is fine. At a point of time, that statement is necessary, I wouldn't deny that. But then it does not seem to get converted into experiential aspect of it. So artists tend, I'm not speaking about only one particular category of artists, but in general, speaking about social realities, people tend to assume a complete authority in that manner. So how do you respond to that?
This power shift, earlier this whole the theory of aesthetics, right, Saundarya Shastra, it existed in written form. Okay. Now new theories are coming, right? Now earlier the authority lied with the people who wrote Saundarya Shastra. Now if a new thing that is happening is a new theories coming in. Now who will decide whether the people who wrote the Saundarya Shastra, they will decide that this is valid or invalid, or right, the new theories coming in, they will decide. So what I feel is, it is not that entitlement anymore being entertained, right? That is their Ambedkarism stance. They said, no, we are not listening to you. Enough of you. We have something to tell you now, listen. See, in literature, the thing with Dhasad happened, right? Marathi Wangmay पूरा हिल गया था. History happens that way.
Yeah, I agree. In that case, it is an experiential literature. But when pictorial sense, it becomes only statemental and not experiential.
Yeah, but you know, means my take on it is that because most of the visual art is guided by language-based responses to the realities, and therefore we have moved away from an idea that visual art needs to deal also with where wordless experiencing is there, and therefore theory oriented, or more than theory oriented, language based responses where identity is important, and then identity based actions are looked upon, and then the time is looked upon in terms of history is so the entire perception is language based, so which is fine. So we need to understand that we have moved away from this idea or this nature of visual language, that visual language tends to give something which is wordless. I'm not saying about sublime, okay, because our idea of sublime actually was adopted. We were not knowing what philosophy to actually relate to our practice, so we identified some ancient text and connected with our art practice. We never asked the question, same question which you asked, is it providing an experience or is it only a theory? The same question you are raising now. So I feel therefore, so my concerns are therefore different, because if the language-based response comes, then every time something new again will happen in 30, after 30 more years. But again the same challenges will be there.
There is no rejection of the sublime, first thing to understand. Okay, it is just that the idea of the non-sublime coming in. That is the whole thing, right? Now, if you ask me, iska ugam kahan se hai sublime ka? Okay, when did counter-revolution happen? If we go into that area, then it will open many things, right? We have read those, we know it. Okay, we know who were the rulers and who were the original inhabitants. We know the history. Why? Because we got to read after getting those rights, right? And like you said, theory mein se art banta hai. That is true, right? This ism, that ism, this type, that type. Then like Greta Thunberg's genuine question is like capitalist. No, this is so wrong. Aisa kuch nahi hai. There is no pollution. Nothing is happening. Go. But then glaciers are melting. Fine. But then RA is being killed. You talk about environmental art. Okay. And you talk about feminism. I question what feminism, what patriarchy are you talking about? What do you know about patriarchy? उसका उगम कहाँ से है? कौन से कल्चर से आया है? Do you question? You don't. What you do? You make a yoni, you make this, that. That's it. That's हो गया तुम्हारा feminist art. नहीं, इतना आसान नहीं है. We observe that, we try to research into it. इसका उगम कहाँ से है? कितना feminist उगम उसका सोच का बारे में कितना research करता है? I question all those feminist artists. इतना आसान नहीं है. वो जो like theory में से जो evolve होता है और actually when you investigate into the subject, then you know. Now like, okay, the idea of nationalism वगैरह, okay, जो the women who are taking the lead, okay, who take the lead, the question is, okay, चलो आप बोल रहे हो कि ऐसा होना चाहिए. It also means that the women saying we are so eager to jump into the burning pyre. Shanti, do you get it?
No.
नहीं. There's the women who are taking the lead. अभी होली के लिए किधर से लकड़ी उठा के सोशल सर्विस कर रहा है, ऐसा फील से काम कर रहा है, ओके? एंड दे वांट नहीं we want the Hindu Rashtra because we are a Hindu Rashtra, so we want a Hindu Rashtra. It also means that I want to become Sati. I am so eager, so much eager that I want to. क्योंकि the idea इसका सोर्स वहाँ पे है, right? We are liberated into a new thing, right? पता नहीं है.
No, and let me say that I was not saying that art is getting created based on theory. I am saying fundamentally, most of the responses are language based.
Literature based.
No, language based. So when I am responding to the experience I am having, if I am responding through identity, then everything is happening through language. Then the entire vocabulary will change. So the challenge is that the wordless we tend to label as sublime. That is the problem. I am not talking about sublime. I am not talking about Brahmanical divine idea or anything like that. I am saying there is a possibility where something new can happen, which is not conditioned.
Yeah, sorry, I might be extending it a bit. When Olafur brings in Greenland ice, he does not make sculptures out of it and make a statement. He just puts it in the public and public experiences it. So that experiential nature of art, when we keep on making statements, and at times it becomes just a sheer extension of graffiti, and it does not go beyond being graffitis. So my point is towards that integral aspect, like how do you make it an aesthetic experience?
Think of Barbara Kruger's text-based works. That pushes you to that experience. It gets you to recall.
Again we cross borders again, like we both did that. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like here we tend to cross borders again for two examples.
I don't find anything wrong when we.
No, I'm not saying it's
on a global.
Yeah.
We think that if we say we are artists, are we just saying we are Bombay artists? No, we are artists. We are aware about everything, and we have our local specific realities. ये दोनों ही है. एक ऐसा नहीं कि हमारा इंडियन स्टाइल में ऐसा एथनिक एस्थेटिक होना चाहिए. We are not like that. We don't think that anymore. Should we conclude? Yes. Thank you so much for being here.